This week's stoush over school funding looks to be overshadowed by an international report marking down Australia's academic performance. The OECD findings have compared 15-year-old students across 65 countries. It found Australian students are slipping behind their overseas counterparts in maths and reading skills. Asian countries like China, Singapore, Korea and Japan are pulling ahead of Australian students in maths and reading. The report also found a wide gap between students in different parts of the country, with Tasmania and the Northern Territory lagging well behind other states. John Stewart reports.
Last year, 14,000 Australian students drawn from more than 700 high schools were assessed as part of the international system known as PISA. Their results were compared with students of the same age in 65 other OECD countries. Australia was ranked 17th in maths, behind countries like Vietnam, Poland, Estonia, Japan, Korea and China. Australia was ranked 8th in science, behind countries like Ireland, Germany, Poland, Japan, Korea and China. In reading skills, Australia was ranked 10th, behind countries like New Zealand, Finland, Canada, Japan, Korea and China. The PISA International Assessment is conducted every 3 years and shows that between 2003 and 2012, Australian boys performed better at maths than Australian girls. Australian girls were also found to have more negative attitudes to maths than Australian boys. Australian boys and girls performed at a similar level in science, and in reading, Australian girls outperformed boys. On average, Indigenous students across the country were 2.5 years behind non-Indigenous students in their education levels. In maths, the ACT, Western Australia, New South Wales and Queensland performed best, with Tasmania and the Northern Territory lagging behind. Tasmania and the Northern Territory were also behind the other states and territories in science and reading. Coaching may explain the gap between Australia and Asian countries in maths scores. Just 27% of Australian students attend an out-of-school maths lesson, compared with 71% of students in Singapore and the Chinese city of Shanghai. The report also highlighted a general gap of 2.5 years in schooling levels between the wealthiest and poorest Australian students. On the upside, more Australian students had a positive relationship with their teachers than their counterparts in other OECD countries. John Stewart, Lateline.